You are listening to One Nation Under Crime, a historical chronological true crime podcast. Each week, we go through our nation's history and discuss one case from each year, starting in 1800. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
And you know how some things happen and they just work out. And it's not the way you intended for them to work out, but some things just so seamlessly work together.
Like we started working together and it was just the best thing ever.
I mean, yes, but no. But it's almost as if planning and divine timing, they just marry themselves together and things just work out.
I need you to explain yourself right now. You got some explaining to do, Lucy.
The day that this episode comes out is the day after Easter.
Oh.
And it's not intentional that our subject matter today is the reason that it is our subject matter today. But it is funny that today of all days is the day that this is the case that we cover.
Oh my goodness. What have you done? What have you done?
For those of you who do not know the names of the people in the title of this week's case, we are covering the murders of Joseph and Hyrum Smith.
I know those names.
You
now
for
I know.
Sure know the name Joseph Smith as the founder of the Mormon religion.
Now I see where you're going.
So, let's dig into him, shall we?
Nice. Nice.
And I'll go ahead and let you guys know, much to Leah's dismay, this is a 2-part episode.
This is like our third 2-parter, isn't it? Wow.
It is. Fourth. So it'll be our fourth because we did... our first one was Alexander Hamilton.
And Burr.
Then we did Madame LaLaurie.
Yeah.
Then we did our last one that was the 2-parter episode. Now we have this one. So
Look
our
at
fourth.
us. We like to go in depth, people.
Well, and y'all will see why this has to be a 2-parter, and we will get into it. But our sources for this week, we have PBS. You know, just...
I mean, I like PBS. A lot of my childhood's from them. A lot of
it's a good one. It's good. Then we have famoustrials.com.
Makes sense.
We have history.com.
Makes sense as well.
And the Salt Lake Tribune.
I mean, for the subject matter.
Really, honestly.
I mean.
So our events in 1844, Valentine's Day, February 14th. You know the day.
I do.
John C. Fremont and his group of explorers became the first Europeans to discover Lake Tahoe during his second expedition through the American West.
And can I just give you a little, for everybody, guys especially, she wants at least a card for Valentine's Day.
I mean, at least.
A sticky note with a heart. Something. I mean, something. We don't expect sparkles.
If she works in an office, I will go ahead and say, if she works in an office and Valentine's Day is going to land on a day that she will be in the office, send something to the office. And I will only say that because I am not that kind of person either. However, you have not worked in a physical office setting for several years. And I will say... it is a little frustrating when people in the office start getting things and you are sitting there and you are like, really?
No, but I was in a physical office. That didn't bother me.
Well, you didn't work with anyways.
Well, but that really didn't bother me. Just an acknowledgement, just a something.
An acknowledgement.
Because one year Michael did nothing and he learned, like he was like, I thought we weren't doing anything. Oh, he learned.
JMK, how dare
I know. And he's so funny now. He's like, he has posted on Facebook. He's like, hey guys, I'm just going to tell you, even though she says she doesn't want anything, she wants at least a card. Like he knows.
I mean, I don't want to do anything big does not mean I don't want to do anything.
Right. I mean, at least
It
a
doesn't
card.
mean that don't acknowledge the day in general.
Exactly. So I'm helping everybody
saying.
out. Okay.
We
continue.
are a little behind it, but we'll make sure before next Valentine's Day we'll also revisit the subject.
Yes. Just since you said the day, I just felt the burden just to tell you, sure. Just at least a card, at least an acknowledgement.
Gotta make sure.
Just
something.
Yes.
Something.
Yes. Okay, continue.
February 28th, the Peacemaker, the largest naval gun in the world, exploded during a demonstration aboard the USS Princeton.
Oh, dear.
Killing 6, including the Secretary of State, Abel Upshur, and Secretary of the Navy, Thomas Walker Gilmer.
Was it like the first time that it was being used, or just it just had a malfunction? I need to know more about this. I'm invested.
Well, February 28th, 1844. You can Google the Peacemaker. There's so much. Look, I did so much research on this episode.
I'm sorry.
Done.
You know that's going to pique my interest.
Well, April 12th, the Treaty of Annexation was signed by Texans with the United States. May 24th, Samuel Morse tapped out the first telegraph message.
I thought you were going to say he died, like he tapped out.
No.
That's so bad.
He tapped out. He said, I'm out. I'm out.
That's so bad. I'm
Wrong
sorry.
section. Wrong section, Liam. We haven't gotten to that section yet. Anyways.
Tapped out.
He put out the first telegraph message to the world, which was, quote, "What hath God wrought?" All right. I mean, not what I would have put out, but I mean, I don't know what I would have. I probably would have done something super cryptic that people would have looked into for the next 500 years to figure out what it meant.
Bipedal
alligator, tailless, beaver structure, telescope. And they'd been like,
what?
Are you telling us that a bipedal tailless alligator and a beaver created the Egyptian pyramids? Yes.
That is exactly what I'm alluding to.
That's what I did. It would have been my job to cause mass chaos.
That's your job now.
May 25th, the first telegraphed news dispatch was published in the Baltimore Patriot. June 3rd, the U.S. signed the Treaty of Wangjia with the Qing Dynasty of China, which is the first diplomatic agreement between China and the United States in history. I found that really interesting. I don't know why, but I did. June 15th, Charles Goodyear patented the vulcanization of rubber. For anybody who doesn't know, that's kind of like when you heat up rubber, it kind of changes the chemical compounds of rubber. July 25th, the exclusion law was passed in Oregon that prohibited, this is specifically what it said. Don't, please, y'all know how I am. It prohibited African Americans, Black Americans, freed and non-freed slaves from entering or remaining in the territory. And we thought Oregon was non-problematic.
Interesting.
I mean, people
Oregon.
Garbage. July 27th, a fire destroyed the U.S. Mint in Charlotte, North Carolina. July 30th, the first U.S. Yacht Club was established as the New York Yacht built by John Cox Stevens and 8 friends, further proving to everyone, yes, we are richer than you, peasants. Go on about your day. September 5th, iron ore was discovered in Minnesota. December 4th, James Knox Polk was elected as the 11th U.S. president. And December 11th, wonderful day in history. Wonderful people are born that day. Only one that I can actually vouch for and verify.
I know two people.
She could, December 11th, same day.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
no, not the one you're thinking of. I know another person, a friend from school.
Well, mine could rule the world. Just saying. It is a bit dangerous sometimes that my ideals could be imparted on her to a larger generation. But, that's my legacy. We all have to leave one. And on this day, the first dental use of nitrous oxide occurred in Hartford, Connecticut.
I've never used that.
By the way, guys, just bit of a Leah, cover your ears. If you do have high dental anxiety, such as myself, you can request nitrous oxide when you get your teeth cleaning, much like I do. And your insurance will not cover it. In most cases, it's like $50.
No.
It's like $50 to pay for it. I happily do it every time. If you go to my specific dentist, if you're in the Birmingham area, message me. I'll refer you. I'm not getting anything from the referral. They're just great people. And their nitrous oxide smells like mint. It's quite delightful, actually.
Why are you telling me to close my ears?
Because you don't need to know about these things. And it's so nice.
Why don't I need to know?
You feel as though you are floating on a cloud away from your dental anxiety of such. I mean, there's two things in this world that I never thought I would understand until I took them. 1, nitrous oxide. 2, propofol. That second one,
what's that for?
That's what they put me to sleep with when I had my endoscopy.
Okay, I thought that might be it. I remember
you recall the
Kayla.
You also recall the morbid joke that I said when I got up. So where I was like, I understand. I understand how all of that happened now because propofol's some good stuff. Like, God.
No,
I slept so good.
I remember taking Kayla to get something to eat after the procedure and her trying to talk on the phone.
I was fine. I will tell you
yes, you were.
This past year when I woke up from my endoscopy, I kid you not, I woke up and I guess I just remembered from last time that I had it done. And I woke up and I went, Christmas movies are on Hallmark. And the girl goes, what? And I was like, don't worry about it.
Mind your business.
I get to nap to Christmas. It's fine. It's fine. Anyways. So good times. Propofol's a good one. But
look,
I'm telling you, if you ever need nitrous oxide to go to the dentist, 1, if you have not gone to the dentist, and Leah knows this is a big thing for me to say, if you have not gone to the dentist in several years, go. It took me 10 years to go to a dentist.
That is me applauding her. I'm proud of her.
Leah knows I might have had to take some prescription things and then
anxiety medication, which I encouraged her to do.
Then also nitrous oxide.
But she did it, and it was okay. And I was very proud of her.
And it took 10 years for me to go back to the dentist.
With lots of encouragement.
Because I had a very bad experience. But ask for nitrous oxide. And if they are rude about it,
go to a different dentist.
Let me know, and I'll refer you to someone.
But this dentist that she goes to now was not a bad experience. She had previously she had a bad experience.
Fantastic. I'll shout him out here. I don't care. If you're in the Birmingham area, go to Dr. Gooch. He's on 280.
Which is a fantastic name.
Fantastic name. 1, my boyfriend can't do it. But anyway,
just because of the name.
Yes, but fantastic doctor. Their dentist seats have massagers in them.
What?
Yes.
Mine does not have massagers. They have
super heavy, like the blanket you have now. They have those, but it's heavier, so it's almost a weighted blanket, but it's not.
So it's for anxiety.
But it's warm, and they'll bring it to you. They also have headphones. Like it is, let me tell you.
Well, it's for people with anxiety.
Dr. Gooch. I also recommended us to some of his dental hygienists last time I was there. So if y'all are listening,
you got to talk it up.
Hi, ladies. Y'all are fantastic. So on to our births of 1844. April 13th, we have John Surratt. He is suspected of being involved in the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He's an Aries.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's likely going to be a 2-part episode.
Or no,
too.
dun dun dun.
Dun,
That
dun,
was the
dun.
wrong music.
Wrong.
I'm sorry.
Chords.
Rewind.
Then here, you'll get your second one.
Okay.
April 22nd, Lewis Powell. He was a conspirator of John Wilkes Booth who attempted to assassinate William Henry Seward.
Dun dun dun.
There you go. He is a Taurus. May 2nd, Elijah McCoy. He was the inventor of the automatic steam engine lubricator. Also a Taurus.
Interesting.
And October 11th, a man many of us know today, Henry J. Hines, entrepreneur and founder of the H.J. Hines Company,
Ketchup.
the giver of ketchup.
I love it.
He's a Libra. I mean, ketchup's fine.
We
Anyways.
had hamburgers last night. My daddy was saying, I wish they just kept the glass bottles. I would just be happy
You
if
could
they
get a
had just the glass.
bottle. You should order him some from Amazon.
We can.
Go to Amazon right now and go order your daddy some glass Heinz bottles. There's not much he has in this world that he holds dear to his heart. Get him some Heinz ketchup bottles.
I'll get that for him for his birthday. Some glass Heinz
I don't
bottles.
see you ordering them, so I don't believe you.
Well,
I don't see you on Amazon at this moment.
I'll have to clear
Edwin,
it.
I love you.
I'll have to clear
Even if your
it
child does not.
with the neck.
She'll be fine with it, and you tell her that I approved of it. Okay, you
Kayla
let her
says.
know I
Kayla
approved.
says.
This is my direct approval. Or deaths in 1844.
These are the ones that did tap out.
Other than Leah's dad's heart when she did not order him Heinz ketchup bottles that
Stop
were
it.
glass. January 25th, Horace H. Hayden. I like to call him H cubed. He's the first licensed American dentist, which we have to thank as well. Dr. Gooch is not, but
No, but he is a licensed dentist.
he is licensed very well. February 22nd, Nicholas Beidel. He's a financier and last president of the Second Bank of the United States.
Apparently, it's no longer, huh?
No, not anymore. At least the second one. June 27th of 1844. Joseph and Hyrum Smith were shot and killed by a mob in Carthage, Illinois. Guys,
Yes.
we are in for a ride this week.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
And as I said before, if the name Joseph Smith sounds familiar to you, it should, because he is the original founder and leader of the Latter-day Saint movement, also known as the Mormon Church. Now, let me go ahead and say, there are different levels and variations of what is known as the LDS or Latter-day Saints movement and faith. We will continue to call them LDS.
Because
And
that's less of a mouthful.
Leah will appreciate my correlation in this moment. It is kind of how all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon. So you could be LDS, but not actually be LDS. You could be LDS and not actually be LDS. Work that out amongst yourselves. So we're just going to dive deep into the person who started the LDS church. And in order to do that, we have to dig deep into the LDS church itself. Now, it is because it is due to the Mormon faith that Joseph Smith and his brother Hyrum Smith are murdered. I will give a lot of caveats in this episode. I am well aware not all LDS people are like this. I will also go ahead and say, yes, I am well aware there are many, 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 many famous murder cases that involve people from the LDS church.
Mhm.
That is not to say that the LDS church has made people this way. Let me make that clear. We are very well aware of like the Susan Cox Powell case, where that they were part of the Latter-day Saints faith. Leah does not know about that case. That will also be a
Leah
case.
does not.
She will not be able to sit in on half of it because it's, if you know that case, then you know the really bad parts of it that Leah will not be able to hear that involve ending of one's life with your child in a house with you that explodes. And
oh no.
there are a lot of other cases that also involve that. I'm thinking of a super famous case now. You're probably thinking of it as well. I can't think of her name, but it's a very famous case as well. And it's going to be on I'll think of it later. Anyways, you guys know what I mean. So, yes, there are a lot of famous murder cases that are out there that do involve someone who is a part of the LDS Church in some form or fashion. That does not mean the LDS Church made them that way, nor
Correct.
that they did that because they were a part of the LDS Church.
Correct.
So I just want to make that clear as we are going into this. That is not any intent of what we are saying. So in saying that,
always good to make things clear from the beginning. I
just want to make sure that everybody knows. And God, I cannot think of that girl's name. It's gonna drive me insane. Leah, do some elevator music. You're failing right now.
I'm failing you.
You're failing.
I'm sorry. I'm failing. I'm such a disappointment. Butterfly in the sky.
Oh,
I could go twice as high. We were talking about PBS. Wasn't it PBS that was that you used as?
Anyways, I figured it out by all that. So Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander. Jodi Arias is the one that she joined part of that faith. It's a whole thing. There's also a very famous documentary on Netflix that is called Murder Among the Mormons. One super good documentary. Super good. Because basically it's about this guy who is fabricating Mormon documents and selling them to the Mormon church. What? And people were getting murdered for it. And he was forging them so well that like they were getting authenticated. So it then brought about this whole discussion of, well, if it's authenticated, is it a forgery? Well, it is because it wasn't real, but it was authenticated. So then therefore anything authenticated by the government is then authentic. So how many authentic things? There are bombs included. It is a fascinating docuseries. So if you have not watched Murder Among the Mormons, go watch it, because they're talking about the gold plates, and we'll get into what the gold plates are, but they talk about the gold plates and how this guy like trolls the Mormon faith and says that it wasn't the angel Moroni that came to them. It was actually a white salamander that came to it. It is insane. And he like the entire Mormon church goes into chaos over these false documents because the documents were like made real, like they were verified. So the church started suppressing them, and then people were murdered. And this is like in the past 20 years that all this happened. It's crazy. So
you can't see my face, but I made a face.
Yes, she made that face from the emoji sign.
Yeah,
that sign, that one. So
I make a really good emoji face.
The Latter-day Saint movement is also known as the LDS movement, the LDS Restoration movement, or the Smith-Rigdon movement. If you combine all of the different branches of the LDS faith, there are over 16 million members.
Whoa.
And around 98% of them belong to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. According to the Salt Lake Tribune, there are 5 types of Mormons.
Huh.
I am not saying this is what I think Mormons are. I'm saying that someone created this article with the Salt Lake Tribune and said that these are the 5 areas of Mormons. First, we have liberal Mormons. And this is directly from this article. Directly from the article. It says, this includes all Mormons who attend church only when they feel like it. Liberal Mormons vote anywhere to the left of the Republican Party or are not rabidly pro-life, and don't believe every word that falls from the lips of a general authority represents that actually comes from the personal opinion of Jesus Christ. Liberal Mormons, according to all other Mormons, will go to hell. Just ask any of the other 4 kinds of Mormons. All right.
Okay.
Then there are genuine Mormons. Nearly every Mormon thinks this is the kind of Mormon he represents. In reality, genuine Mormons are about as rare. I'm not going to say this next part. Anyway, they're rare. It says they are about as rare as, say, golden plates. that was a sharp blow. Anyways, conservative Mormons. These kinds of Mormons are the suit and flower dress crowd you see at church. I cannot read all of this. This is really bad. This person is not a fan of the Mormon church. So I cannot read everything that they say because their opinions are,
they're not nice.
No. Then we have Orthodox Mormons. This kind of Mormon would not miss church for the death of even a relative. So, says Orthodox Mormon women stop having children at 36 because 35 are too many even for them.
Oh, no.
This is directly from this article. Then you have Nazi Mormons. This is 10%. 10% of the LDS church is known as Nazi Mormons. Of that 10%, 90% live in Utah. Most within potluck distance of BYU, which is Brigham Young University. We will talk about him in a bit.
Yeah.
Nazi Mormons claim that Diet Coke is the same thing as heroin, and heaven is
what?
Heroin.
Oh.
And heaven is a multi-level marketing system of glory. For Nazi Mormons, the belief in French kissing is cause for excommunication. I'm out.
I don't know where you found that. Oh, my.
It is the Salt Lake Tribune. This is an article. It is cited. Scroll down to show notes. You will find it, and you can go see it for yourselves.
That is somebody who is very unhappy with the Mormon church.
I'm just telling you.
That is somebody who is not a fan. Not a fan.
Which is surprising for the Salt Lake Tribune.
No,
I'm just saying. I mean, you never know.
Because you're going to have somebody who's not a fan, and they're going to be very vocal about it.
Again, I'm going to go ahead and say that I am only here to research and report on what I find in my research. The reason that I say this is because things are going to get weird. I don't mean weird in that I don't believe it happened or that I think it's made up. Just weird in the fact that I was not knowledgeable on the subject before. And wow, does it take a turn.
There you
go.
So,
let's go back to the beginning of Joseph Smith. He was born December 23rd of 1805 in Sharon, Vermont, to Lucy Mack and Joseph Smith Sr., who was a farmer and a merchant. Oh, also, he was one of 11 children.
wow.
Too many?
Absolutely.
Yes, too many.
That's more than Von Trapp children.
That is so many. So many. I just can't.
I mean, that's more than a baseball team.
I can't. Yeah. You could create some, even some that just sit on the sidelines.
Yep.
I mean,
you have substitutes.
Gosh, it's really bad, guys. So the Smith family had a run of bad luck due to bad business investments and crop failure, and Joseph Sr. eventually sold the family farm to pay his debts. The Smiths, quote, crossed the boundary dividing independent ownership from tenacity and day labor. In the next 14 years, the Smiths moved 7 times. Despite all of this, Lucy Smith remembered this period of Joseph Smith's early childhood as, quote, perfectly comfortable both for food and raiment, as well as that which is necessary to a respectable appearance in society. All right.
Wow. I mean, to a girl who lived in the same house from the day she came in from the hospital to the day she was married, that's wow.
During the winter of 1812, typhoid fever struck the area around Lebanon, New Hampshire, where the Smith family had recently moved. Most everyone in the family got sick, and Joseph, unfortunately, had a common complication where typhoid bacteria infected the bone.
Ooh.
Well, Lucy Smith later claimed that she refused to allow doctors to remove her son's leg due to the infection in his shin. The Smiths came across one of New England's most respected physicians at the time, named Nathan Smith, no relation. He was one of the few doctors who advocated for removal of the dead portion of the bone rather than to amputate the leg. Reminder, at this time, anesthetic and antiseptic were not a concept anyone embraced. Regardless, a young Joseph endured surgery to remove the dead portion of bone from his leg.
That makes me hurt.
Joseph eventually recovered after using crutches for several years, and he walked with a slight limp for the rest of his life.
I mean, you think?
They never talk about the emotional scarring that comes along with it. In 1820, the family moved to Western New York and purchased 100 acres of farmland in the towns of Palmyra and Manchester Township. The Smith family built a log home on the property first, and then in 1822, Alvin, the oldest brother, began building a larger frame house. Alvin died in November of 1823. It's speculated that it was a result of being given mercury chloride for a bilious fever, which was just a fever related to excessive bile in the bloodstream. So like jaundice, kind of. Some say it could have been due to malaria. Others say it could have been due to viral hepatitis. Either way, the house remained uncompleted for a year.
And none of it sounds good. None of it sounds like a good way to go.
No. Before Alvin's death, it seems that Joseph Smith Sr. had partially abdicated family leadership to Alvin. I'm not sure how that works. It could have been that Joseph Sr. was getting older and needed someone more like able-bodied to take head of the family.
Kind of like king abdicating the throne.
Yeah, it wasn't really clear though. So in 1825, the Smiths were unable to make their mortgage payments. The farm was foreclosed on, and the family persuaded a local Quaker by the name of Lemuel Durfee to buy the farm and rent it to them. The Smiths and 5 of their 11 children, gracious, along with Hyrum Smith, who was one of the children, and his wife, because Hyrum was old enough to be married at this time, they all moved in the family. Joseph didn't have much formal schooling, but he may somewhat have attended school briefly in Palmyra. It's either Palmyra or Palmyra. I'll probably say both. And we do not know.
Mix it up.
What we do know is that according to his mother, he received some schooling at home. Joseph worked on the family farm and took an occasional odd job or worked for nearby farmers running errands to help out where he could. Keep in mind, at this time, he was still likely healing from part of his bone being removed from his leg without anesthesia.
Ugh.
His mother, Lucy, described him as, quote, much less inclined to the per usual of books than any of the rest of the children, but far more given to the meditation and deep study. Lucy also noted that he never read through the Bible until he was at least 18. But he was imaginative and could humor the family with, quote, the most amusing recitals of the life and religion of ancient Native Americans, quote, with as much ease seemingly as if he had spent his whole life with them. Joseph was described as quiet, reserved, good-natured, and he was never quite known to laugh. One acquaintance said Joseph had, quote, a jovial, easy, don't care way about him, and he had an aptitude for debating moral and political issues in a local junior debate club. Biographer Fawn Brody wrote, quote, he was gregarious, cheerful, imaginative, born into leadership, but hampered by meager education and grinding poverty. So obviously there were varied opinions regarding Joseph.
Yeah, sounds like it.
The area the family lived in during this time was specifically known to be a hotbed of a religious enthusiasm. During the Second Great Awakening, in fact, the area west of the Catskill and Adirondack Mountains became known as the Burned Over District because it was repeatedly singed by the first of the revival that swept through the region in the early years of the 19th century. This awakening was a Protestant religious revival in the early 19th century, which spread religion through revivals and emotional preaching, which sparked a number of religious reform movements. I put, think of tent church revivals, but in the early 1800s, and you're kind of on the right track.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, the parents of the Smith family did not agree when it came to religion. But with camp meetings and revivals going on all around them, it was kind of hard for them to not get caught up in the excitement. Joseph Smith Sr.'s paternal grandfather, Azael, was a Universalist who opposed evangelical religion altogether. Lucy recalled once that Azael came to their front door after he heard that Joseph Sr. attended a Methodist meeting and threw Tom Paine's Age of Reason into the house and angrily bade him to read it until he believed it.
Wow.
Then on the other side of the family, Joseph Sr.'s maternal grandfather, Solomon Mack, self-published a book which described a series of heavenly visions and voices he said had led him to his conversion to Christianity at the age of 76. By the time Joseph was 12, he started to become interested in religion, and while he did have a persuasion to believe in religion as a whole, he also wondered whether, quote, a supreme being did exist. Joseph attended the Presbyterian Sunday school, but he really kind of leaned more towards the Methodist Church and his beliefs, much like his mother. The Smith family did agree on one thing when it came to religion, and that was engaging in religious folk magic. This was not
what?
religious folk magic. This is not uncommon at this time by any means. It looked a bit more, so, all right. I looked into it.
I'm hoping.
Because this is kind of what I found. Cunning folk traditions are also referred to as simply folk magic. They were combined with the early culture and practice of the LDS movement. Practices of the culture included folk healing, which is the art of using traditional practices like herbal remedies, what people consider manifestation now, which is like the power of suggestion. Then there's folk medicine, which is traditional medicine before modern medicine. So kind of like how ancient civilizations would use frankincense for certain things or, different herbal remedies to heal people. So that's folk medicine.
Okay.
Then there's folk magic. That's a way of influencing forces seen or unseen for bad purposes. Kind of think of putting a horseshoe over a door for good luck, or keeping rosemary by your front door, much as myself, to keep away like bad things. Like that's what people say that rosemary does, or keeping certain things like that, like finding a 4-leaf clover. That's also all considered folk magic. So that's kind of in that realm as well. And then there was divination, which is dowsing rods. Now, a lot of dowsing rods are used for a lot of different reasons. During the time of Lewis and Clark actually used dowsing rods to find sources of water. But dowsing rods were also used for other things, such as to find graves, to find gemstones, to find oil, etc. One of the ways of finding these things, and this term of divination, is called doodlebugging. Now, the reason I bring this up,
Interesting.
my mother has always called me Doodlebug as a nickname. We never knew where it came from and never really thought of it. And then I started researching this and thought,
interesting.
You calling me a witch? Probably. I'm fine with it.
I mean,
these have all been incorporated or rejected to varying degrees into the culture and practice of modern LDS practices. Early church leaders were tolerant of these traditions, but by the beginning of the 20th century, folk practices were not considered part of the conduct of most branches of the movement. So all of this was originally a part of the Mormon movement, like all of it.
Okay.
So that's where all of this kind of like comes in. So the extent that the founder of the movement, Joseph Smith, and his early followers participated in the culture has been the subject of controversy since before the church's founding in 1830, and it continues to this day. Joseph's parents and grandparents all allegedly had
I was waiting for that.
Had visions, and as we said before, believed that they were being communicated with messages from God, much like his grandfather. So let's see. As Joseph started looking more into religion, he was growing more and more concerned with the competition among religious denominations. According to his mother, Joseph claimed, quote, I can take my Bible and go into the woods and learn more in 2 hours than you can learn at a meeting in 2 years, if you should all go the time. It was at this time that he claims to have received a vision that resolved all of his confusion. This is known by the Latter-day Saints as the first vision. The first description of this event was not published until 1832, which said that the event occurred in 1821. However, most accounts date that this happened in 1820. So I put, it was probably a pretty day, but it was for sure in 1820 that Joseph went to a densely wooded area near his family home and he was praying. Then, according to him, God and Jesus Christ both appeared to him and told him that his sins were forgiven and that all contemporary churches had, quote, turned aside from the gospel. Well, whether Joseph regarded this event as a vision or an actual visitation by a physical being has been debated, because a missionary tract published for Joseph Smith's church in 1840 stated that after Joseph saw the light, quote, his mind was caught away from the natural objects with which he was surrounded, and he was entrapped in a heavenly vision. Joseph was understandably shaken and went to speak with a preacher to discuss his experience and hopefully get some answers. The preacher immediately dismissed his story and said it was probably nothing. This vision is considered the first event in the restoration of Christ's church to earth by Joseph Smith's followers. 3 years later, in 1823, Joseph found himself out in the woods, and he was again praying. This was when an angel by the name of Moroni visited him. And for those who don't know, Moroni is an extremely important facet to this story. When Moroni became visible to Joseph, the angel told Joseph the buried location of a book. The book itself was made of golden plates. And in the same location, Joseph would find a breastplate and a set of interpreters, which was 2 seer stones set in a frame. All of these things could be found at the hill, I think it's the hill Cumorah, near Joseph's home. This was very exciting for Joseph, and he immediately went to go find the plates. They were found, but he was not allowed to take them with him. The angel Moroni stopped as Joseph went to grab them. Joseph came back each year at the same time for 4 years to try and find the plates again. The 4th year is when Joseph recovered the plates in 1827. And we will get back to this event in a moment. During this time, the Smith family was not doing well financially. The family was still working on their farm to try and support themselves, and that wasn't working very well either. So to try and help the family, Joseph started taking odd jobs as a treasure seeker. Yes, this was an actual job at the time. And Joseph used a seer stone in order to find lost items. To do this, Joseph typically placed a seer stone, which is literally like a rock that is kind of like, imagine.
I was thinking a crystal ball.
No, it's like a Reese cup. Like if you cut a Reese cup in half and you see how it's like brown and lighter brown kind of colors.
Layered.
That's kind of what the stone looks like.
Okay.
So he would take that stone and set it in a white stovetop hat. He would put his face over the hat to block the light and then see the information in the stone's reflection. Joseph and his father, quote, achieved something of a mysterious local reputation in the profession. Mysterious because there is no record that they ever found anything, despite the readiness of some local residents to pay for their efforts. The timeline is a little out of order here, so stick with me. Joseph found the golden plates originally in 1823. He finally brought them out of the woods in 1827. But the events we are about to talk about now happened in 1825. So it's in that middle time before he saw them and before he took them out of the woods. So in 1825, a wealthy man from South Bainbridge, New York, named Josiah Stowell, was looking for a Spanish mine that had been lost over time in the Harmony Township of Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania. Stowell traveled with another seeker who's only known by the last name of Hale to Manchester to hire Joseph to help them, quote, on account of having heard that he possessed certain keys by which he could discern things visible and invisible to the natural eye. The contract made between the travelers said Joseph would locate, quote, a valuable mine of either gold or silver, and also coined any money in bars or ingots of gold and silver. They had been searching for a month, and at this time they had still not found anything. According to Hale, Joseph was burying his head in a hat with a stone to locate the mine. But as they thought they were getting closer to their objective, Joseph said that there was an enchantment around the location that was so strong he wasn't able to see it anymore. By the end of the year, the hunt had stopped, and Joseph continued to travel with Stowell on other matters until 1826. It was then that Joseph Smith was arrested and brought to Bainbridge, New York.
Uh-oh.
As it turns out, Stowell's nephew put in a complaint that Joseph was a, quote, disorderly person and an imposter. Court records show that Joseph, who was solely identified as the glass looker, went before the court on March 20th of 1826 on a warrant for an unspecified misdemeanor charge, and that the judge issued a mitimus, which at this time is an arrest warrant, for Joseph to be held. Later, one of Joseph's associates named Oliver Cowdery stated that Joseph was honorably acquitted, but the result of the proceeding is unclear, with some claiming that he was found guilty, others saying he was condemned but allowed to escape, and others, which there was really no evidence for, claimed he was discharged for lack of evidence. And that's where we're going to stop for this week, because that is the first time in a series of times that Joseph Smith will be arrested.
Oh, so this is just the beginning, huh?
And we have not even gotten to the actual Book of Mormon.
Nope.
Coming out. So yes, there are 2 parts to the episode this week. Next week, we are going to officially get into the death of Joseph and Hyrum Smith. And let me tell you, the wild ride has only begun.
We've only just begun.
It is a crazy ride as far as everything goes. We'll talk about it a little bit more. This story, honestly, mentally, too much to go into in just one episode. So we're going to get into the next part.
We don't have the capacity.
No, not today. And if you are a Patreon, guess what?
What?
You can go get your second episode right now.
Whoop, whoop. Benefits.
You know, such a benefit of being a Patreon. You yourself can go become a Patreon right now, and you can get the second episode so you do not have to be kept in Mormon suspense any longer.
Instant gratification.
Which is not something that the Mormons believe in.
Right.
But you can have it. And if you go to patreon.com/OneNationUnderCrime, you can find it as well.
Yep.
We have a website where you can find any and all ONUC information that you could be looking for. The Book of Mormon's not going to be there.
Nope.
But you can go to One Nation Under Crime and find everything else. Maybe. We
Possibly.
are One Nation Under Crime on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and at ONUC Pod on Twitter. If you love our podcast as much as we do, please go follow us, recommend us to anyone, give us a 5-star review anywhere that you possibly can. Do everything you can for us, guys, because we love you and we know that you love us.
And you want us to prosper. You want us to continue to grow.
You do. You want to continue to get our content.
I mean, you want our podcast to continue to grow.
Yes.
We don't need to continue to grow.
I'm fine. I'm good at the height I'm at. I
don't need to grow.
I'm a good height. So I'm good here.
Yeah, width does not need to grow.
You know, but if it does, be you. Love yourself.
I mean, true.
What does Leah always say?
Pink starburst.
Exactly. So if you want to go find us on Patreon, we've already told you where you can go and do that. We appreciate you guys sticking around.
Yes.
For this week's post-Easter Mormon story.
Timing.
Impeccable. We appreciate you guys listening to this week's episode of One Nation Under Crime. We will see you here same time, but
same crime
next
time.
week. And remember, there isn't always liberty and justice for all.
Nope, unfortunately.
We'll see you guys next week for part 2. Goodbye.
Bye.